How about you,
He's
brother?
back.
How about you? You're currently sitting on a bottle of Bower Hill single barrel select.
Ooh, I've got a delicious crispy boy, cold, in the Rachel Tilson photography
Custom
koozie.
safety test.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm a big safety guy.
Hey, safety's got no speed. You of which were a super in the blue collar realm before you got to becoming a professional bass fishing guide.
I was. Connor, I like that we matched hats for this.
I'll be lying to you. I purposely put on this shirt.
Okay.
I didn't want to double up on the brand, but we did.
I've got my biblical fishing shirt on, my Matthew 4:19.
I like
Says
big
Fishers of Men on the back of it, but sitting out here in the garage going through some stuff I picked up from the tackle shop the other day. Connor, what is your take on the Jackal drift fry baits for $16 a pack for some little flukes with a crankbait lift on them?
You took the words out of my mouth. Overpriced, over the pond for all you forward facing sonar guys. That's what it's for.
So I've never bought a pack of them before. I've always seen them in shops, like always. And I mean, they always catch my eye. But first opinion out of the pack,
With the crankbait lift.
yeah, it's a minnow. And
Eagle shirt on, fly eagle slot.
my boy James, I call him Lake Conway James.
Lake Conway James, only defending Super Bowl champs, James. My father is from Lancaster.
James is
No, we're not on it.
come one of my best friends, but I kid you not, started off as a client.
That's a dirty Conway bait right there.
Dude, this is going to be the Lake Agnes killer tomorrow.
Lake Agnes. I'm currently, I don't know, Eric, if you remember this cooler.
I do remember the cooler.
This is, well, not still, reloaded down. Being that duck season's around the corner, this is what I keep all the camo in for the boat. Like the sauce to cover the trolling motor, outboard, seats, and then obviously a brush in. But I brought all the tackle inside. I'll show you. This is the new Baits and Booze studio in progress. I got 2 new shelves here that I literally just set up before we started this.
Oh no, the Baits and Booze studio is not out there in the shed anymore.
It is, but it isn't. I don't know if you hear Sage running around back there, but I've decided I've wanted 2 different spots. The problem with Baits and Booze outside is if it rains or if it's 98 degrees outside, it's just horrendous. It's just brutal. So
I get that, dude. Yep, and
that is bigger than the Conway fish. Somehow.
So the sad part about that statement is the Conway chain didn't used to be that bad. It actually used to be pretty decent fishery.
That and the Butler chain used to put
But yeah, exactly, dude. It went the way of the Butler chain, man.
Yeah. Heavy bigs back in the day. You're talking 15 years ago. And unfortunately, I can say that now, being that I'm 30. That's terrible.
Dude.
2010 was a nasty time to be in Central Florida fishing.
Wait till you hit 40, big dog. Wait till you hit 40.
My back feels like it's 40.
Dude, I've not hit 40 yet. I'm still 2 years, soon to be 1 year away from 40, but
old man.
golly, it seems like I'm falling apart quick. The captain's wife says, "C-Mac, you're missing out on spaghetti and meatballs by not being here tonight." That is okay.
It is. Tell her next time I'm supposed to be grouper fishing in the morning, yet again. We got interrupted last week. Somebody decided to wreck their 04 Toyota Tacoma or Tundra through a feeder pole, so I had to go work that. Couldn't leave my men down.
Is that the one you sent me a picture of?
That is what I sent you a picture of. But my buddy, on the way there, dude, blew a hub, not on the trailer, but on the front driver's side of his F-250 on, is that 19 once you get down there? I think Highway 19, because he was able to get into a Wawa and a buddy of his was able to come and help him. And then he never ended up fishing. The boat ramp had 9,000 people in it, he said. He was like, I'm just going home. But back to Bates. You remember
Woo.
do you remember the hop feed?
I don't remember the hot feet, but man, I've been a gambler, cane toad, and a Stanley ribbit frog guy for a long time. Man, Mike Fletcher said Conway used to be awesome around 2000. Now it's just a numbers lake. Man, the last time I was on Conway, it wasn't even a numbers lake anymore. It was a sea-doos lake. Is
It
what
was
it
a
was.
sea-doos and pontoons full of Bud Light. I took some teens out for like a high school event. I tore them up off the back of the boat, but I was just dragging the Carolina rig behind the boat. And they didn't want to do that, but I'll
Got a
probably caught 14, 15 pounds on a Conway chain, dude. It was nuts.
got an 814 last year out of Conway, dude. That's probably you probably caught the biggest fish swimming in the Conway chain.
I don't go to Conway or Butler. I don't blame you. Unless you're just trying to blow through $89 worth of plastics anymore. Now, it is fun. If you're just trying to take somebody to swing on fish, if you just want somebody to swing, like old gal wants to go out there and just swing on fish, them are the places to go.
Bro, here's a wild thing. I had somebody text me last week wanting to book a trip, but specifically they wanted to fish the Butler chain. I explained to them that I didn't know how long it had been since they'd been out there or why they wanted to go out there. The fishing out there wasn't very good anymore. And that also the city of Windermere was being a bunch of
You know what?
you know what and have imposed a bunch of rules out there that basically make it impossible to guide out there unless you're a member of their
Well,
stupid sports thing.
you can thank the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I sincerely hope somebody tuning in has either a connection via family or the fact that they work for that liberal police department. But they're half the problem out there. The
Yeah.
captain's wife said Butler chain or Harris chain if you only pick between those two.
The Harris chain all day.
Why?
At least I can go to the Harris chain and catch a stud.
You can probably catch a stud, but guess what? You're going to go catch that stud, and 6 other boats, including probably 3 different high school tournaments, are going to go probably steal that spot from you the second you leave.
Hey man, that's okay. I've been catching giants and winning tournaments out of the canal between Lake Dora and Bouclair for 3 years now. Every time I pull in there, it's loaded with boats, and I still catch them out of there. This is one of those deals. Oh man, not the Rage Shad.
I said, oh man. Dude,
Not the Rage Shad in a color called Monkey Milk.
and Smoking Shed, they don't even put this color out anymore.
Got a lot of big fish on a Rage Shad.
That's the nastiest color that they came in, but I only got one left. But yeah, that's the old IT frog box. Just a nasty setup. Old. This is probably a 10-year-old box. No lie. I mean, these white horny toads right here are every bit of 10, 11, 12 years old. Every bit. I've got a really weird connection with that box. It's the only reason I wanted to bring that up. That's a lot of my youth comes out when I pull this box out. 'Cause I've had this box. Old Hugh McElvaney gave me a label maker when I was a young lad, and I went and labeled. And now that has turned into me labeling everything on my bucket truck. But
Connor, you bring that up, and it brings up an excellent point. I have written out on a notepad here specifically for you. We're gonna play 10 questions.
10 questions. What is y'all's
I've got
biggest
10
one?
questions for you. And the crazy thing is these are things that I don't even know about you. And I've known Connor for a long time. Connor and I have fished and won tournaments together. We've traveled out of state together. Back when Connor was in the Army and I was working night shift on a jib stack somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, 16 hours a night, we would shoot the bull all night long. But we're going to play 10 questions with bass all year.
It.
Question number 1 is, what are you drinking tonight?
Is this copyright? Cervezas? They're Modelo's. These are the standard.
I've got athletics because I'm an NA guy, but they are delicious.
Big Bush Light guy, but when it's a hard week and it's payday, that's the label that
The
Siemens hits.
Modelo's.
It's a good beer. It's good to eat with. I'm not a big pound beer all night. I like going to my brown water there, which is what you're leaned up on. But if I'm chilling and I'm talking and it's a social environment, I'm probably cracking lids all night.
Got the
Because
good stuff on there.
if I sit the old Angel's Envy during this video, I'm gonna be face down with Sage licking my face. But that's a fresh one. But yeah, Modelo for tonight.
I like a good ice cold Modelo.
Very good stuff. It's very, very good stuff.
Beans 30 says some of the lives I've seen tonight makes me want to drink paint thinner. Oof, that's rough.
Brother, there's one out there for you. Everclear, get on it. How about you?
Yep. What's going on, Sean? All right, question number 2, Connor. Question number 2. And for me, knowing what you do for a living, it's more of an if. But if you are, where are you fishing? Where is Bass All Year fishing this weekend?
So you made a good point. It's hard. We're getting into the best month of the year to pull back. Working for a utility is nonstop from, honest to God, February to really the second week of September is where I pull the old reins back. Tomorrow, though, we're going out of Crystal River doing some bad grouper fishing in 45 feet of water.
Go get
Buddy
some
of mine
meat.
went out. Buddy went out Wednesday. They caught 5. About 4 hours worth of fishing, ton of snapper and other stuff. But so we're going to the saltwater realm Sunday. Got to go get a piece of John's Lake.
Mmm. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It's 5 minutes from the house. It's not the Butler chain. Again, let me reiterate: me and Orange County sheriffs do not have a good relationship at Keens Point Boat Ramp. I have never done anything illegal. I'm not a felon. I've never been arrested. But when you show up with a bass boat and willow dog, and the first question you ask me is, "Do you have alcohol?" at 6:35 in the morning, it just comes off weird. And Officer Manny Vasquez of the Orange County Sheriff's Department is at Kings Point every weekend. So for anybody that's trying to guide out there and trying to get away with it, I don't know what kind of laws they have for that. Won't say names, but I see people booking trips out there, and I just don't know how they're legally getting away with running them out of RD Keene. Sportsman's might be different because that's a private club, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
that's a weird, it's a touchy spot for me because you just can't. But nevertheless,
They're a little bit different over there than they are over here in Sheriff Grady Judd town. I can tell you that.
that's a night and day difference when it comes to the men in green. Orange County to Polk County is 2 different forces. I mean, you're talking Air Force to Marine Corps.
Yeah,
It's the best way I
I
can
feel
put
like
that.
they're a little more. I feel like they're a little more liberal over there.
Well, when over here, yeah. When your sheriff is getting on TV after they catch and jail a murderer, and Grady Judd gets on the news with the pistol and the chain that they arrested the guy with, so it's a little different. But continue. What we got? What are we on? 3?
All right.
Oh,
Yep.
we beat up
Question.
Grouper 80 miles on Wednesday. Rough. See, where, I'm sorry, time out, but Justin Malone, where were y'all out at where you were getting your butts whooped?
I
The
had to go
videos that I saw via Snapchat, they're on a 26-foot. I don't even remember what the boat is. It's a weird boat, but
They're out of Hudson.
Hudson. Baits and Booze with Capt Erik. That's right.
It's my boy JB. Got caught up on some of these. I had to.
Sheriff Grady, honestly, is the dude.
I had to put, and I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but I had to put one loser in timeout. I put him in timeout for 30 minutes because of some ridiculous comment that he left on here. I'll go ahead and tell all of y'all right now that when it comes to some stupid comments, I stand on that business. I will put you in timeout.
25-foot sea hunt. Orange County Sheriff is turning jet skis. I assume he's talking about Butler. again, there's nothing. I totally respect law enforcement, but I worked. This was Labor Day last year. I worked all day, all night. Got home. I had just gotten the cat back inside. She ran off for a week, and I was like, you know what? Hang outside. And I was like, I'm gonna go fish. I have a video of this. Showed up to the ramp at RD King, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey man, you got all your safety gear?" And I was like, "Buddy, I'm probably the most legal guy on the water today." And he's like, "Well, just want to make sure because you're gonna get stopped when you're out there." I was like, "That's a really weird good morning, how you doing?" But
Yeah,
whatever.
I had the same thing happen to me out there. The last time I was on the Butler chain, matter of fact, this was a couple of years ago, and I was idling from Tibbet back into whatever the name of the lake is that RD Keen is on.
Like Isleworth.
Yeah, and old Green Jeans was on a jet ski himself.
What a loser.
Yep, and I was idling in there, life jacket on, kill switch in. There's jet skis and wakeboard boats flying around everywhere, and old boy comes shooting across the lake, hollers at me to pull the hell over into the
Get
reeds,
over now.
and does a full vessel safety inspection on my boat. And meanwhile, dude, there's people literally plowing the wake zone on jet skis
Yeah.
behind us.
And that entire lake personally should be that from Tibbet to the canal that leads you to Louisa. That should be an entire no wake zone. The boat ramp
Yeah,
lake should be a no wake zone. But
I agree.
carry on. Let's get back to our questions.
Yep. Question number 3 gets kind of deep. And real quick, Rachel, the captain's wife, if you're still watching this, if you could bring me another beer. Question
What a
number
woman.
3: who got you into fishing?
Dude, I wish he was in here. So my buddy, so when I first moved to Florida, I didn't fish. I didn't grow up. I claim Florida. I'm one of those people that moved down here when I was like 5, 6 years old. My dad's traveled his entire life. He's a salesman. He's a business guy. Um, Works for ABC Bus Transit, so he sells engines, transfer cases, big shit stuff rather that goes on to buses. He moved us down here.
Thank
We
you.
moved into a neighborhood over by the Gotha Ocoee line, and I met a guy in there. I played baseball when I was 6, 7 years old. Met a dude from the local little league that he fished for bluegills in a pond. So my getting into fishing story is I would ride my bike down to the neighborhood pond with him, had a big fountain and stuff. And we would put hot dogs and little pieces of bread on hooks. Well, his dad would start coming down and his dad would sling out a bigger piece of hot dog and he'd catch a catfish. So we'd catch bluegill. His dad would get a bite on the Zebco 33, hand it to me. We'd catch the catfish. Well, one day I was bringing in a bluegill and lo and behold, a bass came up and ate the bluegill. I'll never forget it. And I had it on for a second and it come off. And I remember looking at it and being like, I don't know what the hell that was, but I want to catch that. And he was like, man, we're going to catch a bluegill and we're going to put it out on a hook and we're going to catch that. That's a bass. I didn't know what a bass was. I didn't know what a bluegill was. We knew him as sunnies. So I finally caught my first bass with him, my sister's boyfriend at the time, whose name is Judd Rudman. He raced against Ryan Villapoto this is back motocross days of like 2006 and 7.
Yeah, you're
When
getting way back.
like Bubba and Ricky Carmichael were on their way out. Judd Rudman and Ryan Villapoto were coming in. Ryan Villapoto ended up being the better guy, got the Honda scholarship, ended up becoming one of the better riders ever. But this guy, Judd, would take me down to this pond and he would throw horny toads. I have them right here. And he would catch the bass off the shore. And I'm like, I don't know how he's doing that. I'm down here all the time with this stupid hot dog. I never catch bass. So a mixture between my sister's boyfriend and one of my best friends, Trevor Peters. He lives over in Luke's, which is on the West Coast down there in Tampa. And he fishes down there all the time. Big snook, big redfish guy. And the first bass I caught, no shit, was like a 6+. I caught it on a bluegill. And it was so big when I pulled it up onto the grass. I can remember standing there watching it flop, and I was like, oh, hell no, I ain't touching that thing. And I watched it flop back into the water, swim off. And Trevor's dad was like, why didn't you grab it? You got to get it. What did you do? Why'd you do that? I'm like, I ain't touching that thing's too big. I ain't touching that thing. So from that fish on, we started catching bass on bluegill, and then Judd would taught me how to throw a baitcaster a couple years later, my first time, and so a mixture between my friend's dad and Judd. And then we went to about a year after that. We went to Disney World on that fishing excursion deal they do
Oh, out there on Bay Lake
on Bay Lake and Seven Seas Lagoon.
in the
Trevor's dad,
pontoon boat with shiners.
yes, Trevor's dad overlooked that back in this time. Like I said, this is whatever 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Trevor's dad overlooked that. He was a big wig at Disney for like 40 years. And he would take us out there like once a month and we would fish with shiners. So that's how I got hooked on it. And then I got old enough to ride a bicycle around. And it's weird to say, but there was no iPhones back then. There was no there was no like you had a camcorder. And I took my dad's business. My dad was a salesman. I took his business camera because I would ride my bike to like, if anybody knows Stony Brook West and Westmere and Belmere over here in like Windermere, Winter Garden, I'd ride my bike and sneak into these neighborhoods because they had big ponds and they had big fish. And my dad would always yell at me. He's like, "You can't be riding your bike that far." And I'm like, we're catching fish. And he'd never believe me. And finally, he gave me his camera and I would take pictures and come back and show him on this little camera. And he'd be like, "Oh my God, that's nuts." I wish you could do like a Photoshop of a picture of what I looked like back then. That'd be pretty cool. But I would come back and show him these pictures when we had my mountain bike was all decked out to be able to carry like multiple fishing rods and a bag and all that. Then 2009 Bass All Year started. Stop. How do
If
I
I had
go?
one
Have
of those pictures, I could do it.
if Rachel's still on, she's not asleep or nothing, is she?
No.
Can she go onto my Facebook and have her scroll to like 2010, and she'll find a picture of me in a Fox? Because Judd used to give me like dirt bike racing shirts, so I wore Fox. I wore a lot of DC, Thor, stuff like that. She'll be able to find a picture of me from back then, and that was riding my bike. What I mean, it felt like we rode 10 miles. If I mapped it out today, it was probably half a mile down the road to these lakes, and we would catch bluegill and cast them out and catch bass, mudfish, gar, all that. And it's sad now, dude, and that's why I feel it. Like I'm like freaking Clint Eastwood, dude. Like you see these neighborhoods be built around these orange groves that I used to ride my bike through when I was a kid,
Oh, dude.
and you go back and
Auburndale's gone, man.
as a I've watched Auburndale change just coming to your house, but over here's way worse. I know you deal with the traffic and all that. But over here's way worse. But
Yeah, no,
I've watched
over there is definitely way worse. I'm not going to argue that with you. It's a lot worse over there. But
when you're an innocent 13-year-old on a bicycle, people don't mind when they look out their back window and you're over a freaking brick wall to go fish a pond. They don't care. You can't do that as a grown man. Some bearded redneck coming over in a white Cummins through your gate. You ain't get the cops called on him, and it happened.
or
And
get
then they show up
shot.
and they're like, "Dude, what do you like? Shouldn't you be working?" And you're like, "Yeah, dude, I should be, but like, I want to fish this pond." Like, lock them up. Hit the road, dude. Hit the road. So, Judd Rudman and Mark Peters got me into bass. My dad doesn't fish. My dad is not a hunter.
See,
Not a
that's
fisherman.
wild, man. That's wild. I was expecting this to go something like, oh, my dad, my grandfather, or my
None of
uncle, or something like that.
no. Both grandfather. My one grandfather. If you asked him, my mom's dad, if you asked him about fishing, he'd say you're crazy. He was an old Korean War vet, plowboy in the local town he grew up in, born and raised and buried in the town he grew up in. So he didn't care about fishing. He cared about playing baseball. That was his deal. And football. He actually was supposed to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers and went to the war and came back and decided he was going to spend his life with my grandmother who passed away. But and then my dad's dad was a cop. He didn't fish. And then my dad was a surfer in the Jersey Shore, so he didn't fish. And then I grew up in Florida, and it was like presented to you, fish and hunt.
Here you are,
Here I am drinking Modelo's on a Friday night, talking to you.
bass all year.
Bass All Year was started because of Trevor Peters' dad. I will say that.
That was question number 4. That's question number 4. Why, how, when, what's the deets on Bass All Year starting? Why did Connor start a YouTube channel as such a young guy and blow up the scene catching all those giant bass out of John's Lake and the Butler Chain out of the little V hull boat.
This is our
And sent
intermission.
back.
This is our intermission. Give me a second. I have to find a folder because I will die on the hill. I will die on it that I was the first, maybe second dude on YouTube videotaping fishing. I have to find a little file back because I want to get. Do you have anything in resorts to iCast at all? I got 15 texts going on. Hold that. I've got to find this file. Do you have anything in regards to iCast? Did Rachel find anything, by the way?
She left a comment. She said, I got kicked out. Go to 2010 and do what?
Look
Rachel,
up
we
a
need
picture
you
of
to
John C-Mac.
find some old pictures
I've
of
got,
Connor
dude,
way back in the day, bass fishing.
I've got a file. I know people are on their toes, but this is exciting. I have an old file, Eric, of gosh, dog, man, I don't know what I did. It's around here, but so in the military, we had an I Love Me book. That's what this is. This is where you put all your awards and training. And I have another one of these filled with old fishing resumes. Back in the day, you would make a fishing resume, and that's how you got sponsors. And I don't know what I did with mine, which sucks because now that you asked that question, I really want to show it. Let my mind think about where it is. But nevertheless, there he is. Cherry Lake, dude. Claremont Chain. Claremont Chain of Lakes. Look at that football, dude.
Look at that.
Look at how fat that freaking fish is. I caught that fish on a drop shot fluke. I'll never forget it.
You were drop shotting a fluke?
On a bed. Drop shot and a fluke on a bed. I was disgusting at that age. It was unbearable how good I was at bass fishing back then. Rocking the wave fishing. That was my first major sponsor as a junior angler, was wave fishing. Willow.
You're the Willow dog.
Old Jim Boyd at Wave Fishing set the standard for fishing resumes. Dude, that sucks. I'll have to for anybody watching, and if you follow the Bass All Year Fishing page on Instagram, I will have to find it and upload it. The Bass All Year channel started because I grew out of the bike. I realized that I was 14 years old, and I was like, you know what? I'm catching all these fish in a pond. I went to a Wednesday night tournament and fished it with a guy named Mike Bruton, who back then was running the Wednesday night tournaments out of the Johns Lake boat ramp. And I remember we fished that tournament. We got like 7 pounds. We didn't win any money, but I thought it was the coolest crap since sliced bread. And I felt like this is like I'm catching fish for a reason. I sparked my interest in tournament fishing. And I started the Bass All Year channel with the intent of buying a boat. In 2009, I only had a bicycle. Again, my dad didn't have a Skeeter or a Phoenix or whatever. My dad just went to work. And then I would see my dad once every other week. He'd come and watch me play baseball, and that was that. So I made these flyers I don't know where they're at. Fine. I made these flyers, pass them around my neighborhood to wash your car for $5. And I'd go around the neighborhood and I would use their hose.
$5?
And I'd wash your car for $5 and I'd ride my bicycle. And I was in Lakeview Middle School, and I had a reading class. And a buddy of mine named Austin Ricketts, who we've kind of lost touch over the years, we were in reading class, and I was talking about how I'm washing cars, and I'm making all this money, and I'm going to buy a boat one day. And I remember a kid telling me, "You're crazy. You're never going to buy a boat. It's impossible. You can't buy a boat." And this Austin Ricketts kid lived in Belmere, which was where like 80% of the videos were that I filmed. And he was like, "I catch bass in my backyard. I live on a lake." And I was like, "What lake do you live on?" He said, "Lake Whitney." And I was like, where's Lake Whitney? Back in the days of MapQuest, I'm sure you remember. So I went back home that day after school, did my homework, talked to my old man. I'm like, hey, I need to go on your computer. I need to find this thing called MapQuest, and I need to find this lake called Lake Whitney. So on MapQuest, I figured out how to get Lake Whitney. I was riding a longboard, and I borrowed a canoe from the neighbor, and we bungee strapped because I couldn't figure out how to use a ratchet strap that morning. Me and my buddy bungee strapped a canoe, and we walked like 2 miles to the reserve at Belmere. This is like one of the first couple videos I ever filmed with my dad's Canon XR4 little work camera, mind you. Walked it to the back gate of Reserve at Belmere off of Windermere Road, crawled underneath the gate, took the canoe off of the longboard, pushed it underneath the gate, pushed the longboard underneath the gate, and snuck it through this couple's backyard. And we fished Lake Whitney, and it's one of the most viewed videos I have. We
Golly.
caught the junk out of fish, and I realized at that point that this bass all year thing, there's no one on YouTube making fishing videos. I need to get a boat, so I'm washing cars. We end up going on, and I start making all these videos of fish on this canoe, fish on this canoe, fish on this canoe. Well, finally, the canoe flips one day, and that's where the camera goes gone. What does your dad do when you break his stuff? He makes you pay for it. So all of my car washing money went to replacing my dad's Ford camera, and I had to start from scratch. Well, being what parents do, they help you buy a boat. So the duck boat I have, skimp back.
The skint back.
It was at, I think it was called Boaters World. It was in downtown Orlando. My dad knew somebody down there because my dad was big in the ski and wakeboard community that said, hey, I know your son fishes all the time. We have this little John boat that somebody has on consignment. And it was $2,000. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, that's a lot of cars. And I ain't going to make it. I ain't going to make $2,000. So my
Not
dad gave me,
$5 a car.
my daddy went down there, and my dad, again, is a salesman. If anybody on here wants to buy a car, you hit me up. My dad has a great pride in buying cars for people. He's normally the one selling stuff. He loves buying stuff. Taught me everything I knew about buying and selling stuff. I should have been a salesman, went another route, whatever. So we went down there, bought this little John boat. I now have it again. I sold it when I was younger and bought my first bass boat. But that was why the Bass All Year channel started. I realized I needed a boat, got out on the boat, caught my first 10-pound bass on the Butler chain of legs. I won to date, the only bass tournament I've ever won as a young man. I won out of that boat on a Saturday morning open on Johns Lake that they almost didn't let me fish because they didn't know if I was young enough to gamble my money in a bass fishing tournament. And I fished that, and then I got second place in a Butler Open when I was younger. Out of that little boat, that little John boat, and now that's my little duck hunting boat that I brought out to Whistler. There might be a couple pictures, but I've got a really sentimental value with that boat. Can't get rid of it. There, that's her. There she is. Rachel's killing the Facebook game right now. So it has my YouTube tag and it has my name. That is the Northwood Semi V with a 99 Mariner and a Minn Kota handle. No electronics. No electronics back then. This is 2009, 2010. The stuff was out, but I was washing cars.
Not even like a little hummingbird or anything.
I had the hummingbird thing that was like, it looked like a Game Boy. It was like that big.
Yeah. Yeah, it
I
had the
had
monochrome
that.
screen on it.
And my dad bought me that for my birthday because I ran the boat aground going between Lake Tibbet on the shore, and I beached it so bad that I had to call him, and I was like, I'm not going to, because on the Butler chain, you have to be off by sunset. And my dad, I didn't have a license. He would just throw me out in this damn boat and let me go fish. And I beached it so bad, he was like, I'm putting a depth finder on there so you can never freaking run that boat aground again. And that's what I had for years, dude. Years. And when I turned 16 in high school, I was mowing lawns and I sold that boat right there. My dad bought it for $1,200. I sold it for $3,600. And I bought my first nitro bass boat, which Rachel, it's on my Facebook. I bought that first bass boat for $3,800 from Big Toho Marine, and it blew up the day I bought it. And
Of course it did.
my dad made me the next morning. It was a Saturday morning. He made me go down there like a man and approach the owner of Big Toho Marine and demand that he fixes the boat. Basically, like, hey, call me when this goes south so I can stick up free. But it taught me life lessons of like, you water test boats, you talk to people, you make sure stuff works right. So that was how that started.
That's hilarious, dude. A lot of history for bass all year.
That little boat, dude, and that's why there's so many nice duck boats out there now, and I will outhunt people 2 to 1 in that little. I bought that boat back for $2,200, so it's a good boat now, but she needed work. But
Yeah, that's like the Curtis Lowe.
exactly, dude. You can never sell it. You can't. Someone
No,
could probably offer you 20 grand, and you'd be like, "No, dude.
it's not the money.
It's Gramps had it. It's you rebuilt that boat." And honestly, God, if I ever bought a new boat, because I'm gonna need a bigger boat with both dogs and old gal and everything else, I can't. That boat's a lot, but I would if I don't plan on having kids. But if I ever had kids, I'd have to give that boat to. I would never sell that boat.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Connor, give us a brief rundown of what happened to bass all year after you joined the United States Army.
Joined up. So
Bass all year had to have been cruising pretty good by the time
Bass
you
all
joined
year,
the Army.
Bass all year was the standard of YouTube fishing phenomenon before it got big. And for anybody that doesn't know what the YouTube game was, nobody was on YouTube in 2009. Period. It wasn't a thing. You went on there to laugh at somebody putting a firework down and it shooting the wrong direction, and people laughed about it. Nobody was going on there to watch fishing videos. That was unheard of. Nobody fished. So I had the pride and joy. That's all I cared about was fishing. I sucked, and when I tell you sucked in school, I sucked in school. I hated school. I was a little class clown. I didn't care about school. God love my mother. She was the one that was home. And I think junior year, she finally was like, the dude's going to the military. He's not going to graduate and go to college. Like, forget about it, whatever. About the time I got my first truck, that was that. I was gone. I caught the perfumes of women and I caught the gas fumes of the truck, and you weren't catching me on a Friday night studying for school. I didn't care. So
What happened?
signed up for the United States Army in 2013. And dude, it's funny. When I signed up, I was like, I'm not picking a combat arms MOS. I'm going to stay around the States. I'm going to continue fishing. And I'm going to serve my country like I wanted to. Because I was always going to go into the Army, Eric, no matter what. If I was going in at 30 or 18, that was something I wanted to do. And it was just not that to anybody that hasn't served, but I just felt that that was what I should do as a man. I just wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to tell people that I served in the military. That was like a weird little pride thing I had. Other than that, I couldn't tell you why. I wasn't lost. I knew I wasn't going to college, but I knew on the other side that I wanted, like, thoroughly wanted to go in the military. My only request for my mother was don't join combat arms. She was, I'll let you sign up at 17, but you're not allowed to go combat arms. So I was like, cool. So I went in as a small arms maintenance. So anybody that was in the military was an armor. I maintained small arms and everything from a 50 cal machine gun down to a M9 pistol. So lo and behold, I go to boot camp and I was like, man, I'm gonna get out of this MOS training at Fort Leonard Wood. I'm gonna get somewhere like Fort Hood or something, and I'll be able to bass fish. Old commander comes in with his files. Whack, Connor, you're going to Germany. That's awesome, dude. And I was like, damn. What do you mean Germany? And I remember thinking, like, what am I going to do in Germany? I can't fish in Germany. Ended up being probably one of the best 2 years of my life. Loved Germany. Didn't appreciate it enough. That's another little life lesson as a young man I got. Understand the opportunities you have in life and execute on them. But when I got to Germany, that was when it slowed down. That's 2015, 2016. Just so happened to be when the bass fishing YouTube game skyrocketed for the moon. Took off like a freight train. Everybody and their mother started going. And what ended up being the little black and lime green baits that ended up on the shelves known as Guggen was when those boys got together. I knew John B back before that was a thing. We had talked a lot online. little 15, 16-year-old buddies on Facebook, and did a couple years in Germany. Served. Did the Ukraine deal 10 years ago when that was going on. Came back, got to Fort Stewart, and started digging back into it hard. And that brings me to when I met you. Fishing Christian goggles open tournament, and that was when that was.
What was the name of those tournaments he was having, man?
I don't do, but to not to take anything away from him, but I don't remember how many boats were at that event. But I remember a couple of them he put on had 20, 30 boats. Like they had a good outcome. It was like bat, like I don't know. He had a weird name for them, but they were doing really good.
Yeah, I feel like it was like Ocean something or
Ocean to land, something like that. But they were doing good. Like not to take anything
yeah.
away from them. Those tournaments were pulling some boats.
Yeah, no.
20, 30.
By the time you and I agreed, hey, we'll go fish this one out of Overstreet on Kissimmee, they were doing pretty good at that point.
Right. So to backtrack real quick, when I was in boot camp, my dad sold my damn boat, my Nitro, because he got tired of it being in his garage. And anybody that knows boot camp, you don't have a phone. So he wrote me a letter. Hey, sold the boat, was in my way, tired of dealing with it. My dad's not an ass, but my dad's a very straightforward person. Like, you're not here. You don't need the boat. You're going overseas. You don't need it, whatever. So when I got to Fort Stewart, a buddy of mine whose dad won the Gambler Intimidator that I have to this day, won that boat in '96 on the Kissimmee chain. His dad handed it down to him. He wanted a center console, so he's selling the game.
Man, don't tell me your dad's buddy in '96 won that boat in a Budweiser tournament.
I'll ask him, but he won it in 1996 on the Kissimmee chain with one fish, a 5.5 pound.
Out of Camp Mac.
Out of Camp Mac. Rusty White Jr.
Okay, yep. Rusty White used to work.
Senior.
Huh?
Senior?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. So I vaguely know who he is because my grandfather knew him because my grandfather was fishing all those Budweiser tournaments out of Camp Mac. So how about back then, those tournaments out of Camp Mac, the Budweiser tournaments were pulling, 400 boats.
This was like 250 when he won.
Yeah. And so the Gambler was a separate prize, and it was for a fish over 10 pounds is what it was for. Every time they had one of those tournaments, Gambler would provide a new boat as a giveaway prize to anybody that weighed in a fish over 10 pounds. Or if there were multiple fish over 10 pounds, the biggest fish over 10 pounds.
I'll have to ask him the terms of the event he won the boat in. He might have won a different event that brought, whatever.
I'd be willing to bet that boat came from a Budweiser Classic because the color of that boat is the Budweiser Classic colors.
Rachel, if she's still listening, can go on Rusty White Jr.'s Facebook page, and he's standing there with a plaque leaning on this Gambler bass boat. And it's the boat I have.
I guarantee you it's the Budweiser Classic out of Camp Mac.
It came with a '96 Black Max. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support, Kevin. It was fun while it lasted. Old Fort Lost in the Woods. You had a Florida boy. I went through boot camp in November of 14. And then went straight to Germany in February. That was a rude awakening, which is why I hate cold weather to this day. But bass all year, came back to Fort Stewart, got on a good roll. The biggest paycheck I ever got was like right at $4,000, and this is a month. YouTube AdSense was paying a month on PayPal during this time. I don't know how it is today. I'm not on AdSense anymore. But back then, it was paying by the monthly, and I got a $4,000 check before I went into the military. When I got out of the military, it was pulling about $400 or $500 a month. But I was getting 1,000 views here, 2,000 views here, 900 here. I remember hitting up Facebook and being like, open tournament on Lake Toho, who's going to do it? And you put the eye emoji where it's like looking through the peripherals.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, dude, how about it? We going to fish this tournament? And you were like, let's do it. And I was like, I wonder who this guy is. Like, seems cool, whatever. Talks a lot of smack. I like that. And you went and pre-fished the day before. And I was driving, that was a Friday. I was driving down from Fort Stewart back down to Orlando to fish this event on Saturday. You were like, hey, buddy, are you here? And I was like, nah, dude. And I was in a gas station in Midway, Georgia. And you were like, I got one that's the double deuce, guaranteed. And I was like, dude, I don't know anybody on the water down there. And you were like, well, it's a big one. Like, I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, no. So I wound up running into, and I've got a picture of that fish on my social media. I'm not going to dig through it and find it because I'd hate to even take a guess at how many pictures of big fish I have on my social media.
True.
But that fish wound up being like 9 3/4, and I caught her
A
punching a
big.
mat over
Yeah.
there off of Lemon Point, which is where you and I went for the tournament.
And it was a nasty cold front that rolled in. I had like 3 rods because I didn't have much tackle back then. I mean, mind you, I'm living in the barracks in the army. I had a room that was about as big as the room I'm in right now. If you stretch your arms, you would have touched both walls. And I remember having a flipping stick, and I remember that first run, dude. I will never forget the first run. That was the first time I was ever in a bass boat with you. It was your boat. It was with the old Pro XS 2-stroker on the back of that same bird you're sitting in. And I remember ripping through. Dude, you couldn't see the bow lights on your boat. And
it
what
was
seemed
it
like
was
4 foot
foggy
rollers,
and it was windy.
it was probably 1 foot, maybe white capping barely. But I remember looking at that old hummingbird and it's saying 69.7. I was like, this son of a bitch right here can run a boat, boy. That because back then, dude, I was driving the Gambler at 55. I remember, I can tell you at 55 it would chime. And I was petrified to chime walk. I was like, nope, 55. I don't know how these boys are running these boats 80. And, heck no. And remember me running 70. We got our first spot. I lost that big one on a mat. I don't think we filmed that day.
No.
But Fort Stewart, 2017-18, I was coming down. I came up fishing the Teen Sport Fishing Association tournaments. Did really good in those, state competitive, had a blast. Neil Lazarus was a great guy. He was the president back then. And in 17 and 18, I returned to be a boat captain. And the most coveted trophy I've ever received in my life. The old boat captain of the year I got in 17-18. That was a good one. Because I loved, and I tell you, loved taking them boys fishing. That was the best thing ever. And the other thing is, I would get 2 videos out of the deal. Because I'd come down on Friday night, I'd pre-fish the lake on Saturday, find them boys some fish, and Sunday was a tournament. So I'd film the whole practice event of me fishing, and then I'd film the boys fishing Sunday. They got to get on the YouTube channel, and again, it wasn't. It was big in 18, but it hadn't taken off. It wasn't COVID big. So I got some views doing that, and then I was going down there once a month and got that award at the end of the year, which was cool. And then probably around COVID, whatever, I met Mariah, moved up to North Florida, Lake Seminole deal. And I think like any dude does, they get in with a woman and they give their life to a woman and they just forget about all their fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you were still fishing quite a bit up there, doing a lot of like Talquin stuff up there.
Doing a lot of talc, and I was filming with Trevor, that guy that pulled the gun on us on the kayak.
Yeah.
That was with Trevor. That's who I grew up fishing
Okay.
with back in the day. That's Trevor Peters. He went to FSU, and I was up there because the chick that I was with was getting her master's, and then we moved to Crawfordville. She took off, and that's what got me into line work. I was making $18 an hour, no benefits, no 401, no nothing, at a company called General Dynamics, which produces the wiring harness for the Abrams tank. I was just welding tables for these people to lay out the harnesses on. That's all I did. Monday through Friday, I'd go in, weld. If I needed material, I'd go to Granger and I'd buy it. I was buying a lot of stuff for myself. Got a lot of Miller stuff. Got a lot of gloves, whatever. A lot of FR clothes that took me into power lines. Quickly realized $18 an hour isn't going to pay the bills. If I want to continue living in a single wide the rest of my life, I better change. And I got on the city of Tallahassee, and she didn't like that, which brings me back here. So I work for Duke Energy now, and just last couple of years just hit that hard, dude. Trying to put that beside me, at least lock down a solid career that I can go, which wherever I end up, I'm kind of a free spirit at will. So wherever I end up, that's the goal, is to work my 80 straight, not do all the overtime I do now, and not have to worry about working 140, 150 hours a paycheck to pay the mortgage, and just get back to fishing. So it's kind of like a 1 month I'll dip into it pretty hard, get some content, and then another month I'm working or I'm out of town. I'm in Louisiana, I'm in New York, whatever. And then, so as you know, you got to be able to build the snowball effect. If you're not getting content at least every other day, you ain't even pissing a chance of even being in the game. So
Nope.
where I'm at now, dude, just late 20s deal, just trying to establish the career side of it before being able to play. I don't I don't love it like I did back then though. As you know, editing a video nowadays is hell. I mean, it's a 20-minute.
It's not great.
It's not fun. Back when I was riding my bike, there was no like vlog stuff. It was just like do you remember the company Famous? You remember that logo Famous?
Like Famous Stars.
Like it had the F with the little star on it.
Yeah, it's Famous Stars.
So Judd was sponsored by Famous. He gave me a ton of that stuff, and my first hat cam, I took my dad's drill and I drilled a bolt that fit the camera on his hat. And if you look up the video fishing Berkeley Gulp worms, I would ride my bike to the Winter Garden Village, go to Sports Authority, buy a pack of worms, and then I go fishing. And I screwed my dad's camera onto that lid, and dude. Hat cam wasn't around. GoPro wasn't on the map. Like none of this stuff. This is all new technology. That's why I say I feel like Clint Eastwood now. But like this stuff wasn't GoPro and that kind of crap wasn't around then. It was close. GoPro I think came out in 2010, 2011, but it wasn't what it is today. You
Yeah,
didn't
no, those first. I mean, well, hell, the newest GoPros are trash. Those first ones were terrible.
awful. They weren't a thing till COVID when everybody started fishing because they didn't have crap else to do. So the Bass Year thing was big. I still do. Like I would love to see this logo on everybody's chest. I just saw one like 2 months ago. I was in downtown Winter Garden. A guy had it. Said he followed me on Instagram. Like that's a cool feeling. That hat, yeah.
I love
I've
this
got
hat, dude.
I've got some awesome people that make stuff for me. That this is the camo Bass All Year, which is what you have. Natalie in Nebraska of NL Leather makes these hats. They're just Richardson 112s with a leather patch on them. And then I have a company that prints the shirts. So like I just do like I would love for that to be full time. I don't want to work in the sun, build power lines for the rest of my life. But I think the days of being able to buy a GoPro and have a boat and make a living on YouTube, I think those days have sailed. Truthfully, I really do. I really think they are. Now you got to have Threads, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. You got to have everything. And it's a full time job. There's
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. People ask me all the time. They're like, "How come you don't do the TikTok thing?" And I'm like,
you have
"Bro,
to
I'm
guide.
like, dude, all these kids that are on TikTok, they're not going to book a guide trip with me.
No, and like
You know what I mean?
back then, that's what you did is you collabed with local guides, sales associates for bait companies, and like local what we would call pros, guys that had the Skeeters, the Phoenixes, because you were in a Northwood John boat. So you saw somebody with a 200 Mercury and double power pulled up. That was a professional fisherman to you. At least it was to me. I don't know how anybody else felt. But me in a John boat and my dad dropping me in and then taking me, hey, what time's weighing? Hey, it's 3 o'clock. And you have a 12-volt trolling motor with 3 extra batteries. Like fishing to fit, and it sucks that you lose that, dude. You lose that like innocence.
Yeah.
Like back then, dude, there was no four face. Like I'm not even
Well, I
talking
mean,
about
dude,
four
bass
face
fishing
terminal.
when COVID happened, it changed the whole trajectory of bass fishing. All the manufacturers, the entire sport, everybody realized, hey, with this whole COVID thing going on,
There's something
outdoor
here.
activities being the only thing you're allowed to do,
There's
dude,
something
people
here.
flooded to bass fishing, and you got this huge influx of people that had more money than they had sense,
Mm-hmm.
and they had, they had zero. They were going to be the next Kevin Van Dam, even though they had never fished before a day in their life. They ran out, bought a brand new 21-foot Ranger, fully equipped it, all the best gear, all the best electronics, you name it.
They
And
have.
the next thing you know, they're professional, bass fisherman John Bob, who you've never heard of in your life, but here he is at the ramp in a wrapped truck with a wrapped boat and a jersey and everything else.
And it was like, no, you're good. I had to text old gal. I remember when John Cox was doing the FLW deal and coming up and was like a big deal, and it was like John Cox has brush piles on Winterset. John Cox has brush piles on Woodruff, and like coming up TSA, you fished against Seminole County, you fished against the River Rats and all that, and those were the boys to beat at the state tournament. So the way TSA was back in the day, and I'm not familiar with the system they have anymore, but you had TSA and you had Junior Bassmasters back in the day. TSA was double what Junior Bassmasters ever dreamed about being back then, but they would compete for the same state championship, and you'd win a Minn Kota Fortrex 80-pound thrust, 24-volt trolling motor. That was if you won the state tournament. And the guys to beat were the Kramer clan and all them boys up
You're going way back.
Way back. Those were the dudes to beat, all in the relation of John Cox and Bryce Mitchell and all these big burly dudes that were hard to beat on the river. And typically the state back then, the river was so good, you were either putting in at Okeechobee, at Clewiston, or you're putting in at Astor. We weren't fishing out of Palatka, none of that, but those were where your two state title destinations were going to be. So those were the guys to beat back when I was, high school, serious fishing, when all I cared about was going home, sleeping, and fishing. And then you get, bills now, and you realize that you can't do that all the time. But I talk about the innocence part, dude. You didn't care. You showed up with a freaking brown paper sack of your favorite baits. Typically, it was a speed worm, some naked swimmers. The Trixie Shark from Reaction Innovations was a huge big bait catcher. And you'd show up with old monsters. And you were like, if I don't catch 5 on a Trixie Shark, I'll drag that old monster to victory type deal.
When I
And
bought
electronics, like side imaging, I didn't know what side imaging was till I was like 23 years old. Well, you really introduced me to side imaging, to be honest.
I've always been big on the electronic side of things, but when I got back into bass fishing, because when my parents split up and I moved out, bass fishing kind of took a back burner for me for a long time while I worked, and
as it naturally does in life.
Yeah, paid rent and went to college and did all this other stuff, and got married. But then I bought that little bass tracker and got back into it. Dude, I had zero issues whatsoever showing up to the Saturday or Sunday open derb out of Camp Mac or Southport or Big Toe Marina with a flipping jig, a pack of Rage Craws, and a pack of Big Easies and a swim bait hook.
Just going to fish.
And that was it. And I was going to go put it on the grass line and go flip and chunk and wind on a grass line all day. And used to whip these boys' tail around here, man.
You didn't think about if the fish were offshore.
I didn't. Dude, I didn't think for the longest time. I didn't believe bass lived out there.
Absolutely. And as you or anybody else in your line of work, with all the advancements of electronics, have now realized that these fish might not leave offshore. You said before that you think
the problem was kind of within this time frame too. That was when we saw Lake Toho get choked out with hydrilla.
Yeah,
the lake never had that kind of hydrilla in it, man. And once the lake got just absolutely racked with hydrilla, that's whenever the game started to change. Because the hydrilla was growing up against the grass lines everywhere out there, and now all of a sudden fishing Kissimmee grass was irrelevant because there's hydrilla everywhere.
Go pee. Make sure this puppy don't pee in my house. But do you ever remember, and spraying, before we get into our next question, we'll hit spraying real quick. Was spraying ever as big as it was, I'll say a decade ago, as it was today? No. Were they doing it as often?
Hell no.
You thoroughly believe that?
Hell no. Not even close.
You don't think it was as relevant?
Bro, I can't. Golly, man, I can't tell you the last time I went to a ramp and didn't see 3 or 4 Applied Aquatic spray boat truck and trailers there in the parking lot. Like it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
Like, wherever you go fish at nowadays, they're spraying something out there,
And you don't think just with the way social media is today, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, you don't think that we're hearing about it more just because it's relevant to social media?
Hearing about it more. Well, I think what started to happen is once you started to see Lake Istapoga die, Lake
That, you
Walking
know what?
Water
That's a good
die,
point. That's one of the first big ones that really
bro. They killed Walking Water, and then
stage come.
Istapoga was gone, and Lake Kissimmee for the last 5 years plus now has just been trash,
Right.
you know. And Lake Hatchinahaw, Jesus, dude, anymore. I don't even know if there's any fish that live in Lake Hatchinahaw. But if you fish Lake Hatchinahaw 300 days a year, you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 good days out there, you know. And I'm not talking about fishing running water at the mouth of a canal. I'm talking about flipping reed lines and fishing the rest of the lake.
Like finding a pattern of fish on.
Dude, I mean, it's rough, man. It's gotten rough out there. You know, Lake Kissimmee, we used to go to Lake Kissimmee and you knew you were going to go catch 20, 30, 40, 50 fish, man. All you had to do was chunk and wind a white spinnerbait
It
through
was
the
like that
grass,
back then. Did
and
you
you couldn't keep them off a hook.
remember when a skinny dipper came out?
Dude, the Big
It
Easy,
was
when the Big Easy came out, it was lights out. It was
just find some Kissimmee.
to to think about how the fishing is out there right now and compare it to how it was when like the Gambler Big Easy came out. Dude, it sucks. It's depressing to think about because of how much better the fishing was.
You didn't have to, dude. You had it. All you needed was a 14-foot Northwood John boat and a main coated trolling motor on the back.
That was
You
all
were
you
catching
needed.
fish.
That was all you needed. We used to put in at the state park, run out to Philadelphia Point, put the boat on the grass line. Oh no,
Super
dude.
mock for it. Should I build it? Oh no. Well, I really like the stage 2 cams on a Supra. You know, with the Mac 4, you know, if you can get the CGI plus exhaust system, you're really, you know, unless you have that, you're not in the ballpark of building a Supra.
But no, I think the big reason why you're seeing all of the heat towards the spraying on social media these days is I think there's a lot of really pissed off people out there that their lake is dead.
And that's
You
really
know,
what it is, dude. I can tell you, I've watched, not that spraying killed the Butler Chain of Lakes, not that spraying killed Conway, not that spraying killed Harris, not that you can say spraying physically defeated all these lakes around, but you got, if the more guys I've talked to that are older than me that have been around longer than I have, because I've seen lakes change, but I haven't seen the drastic change, and you hit it on the nail with Istapoga. That was one of the first lakes that got decimated strictly due to chemicals. Strictly. Nothing else killed it. A lot of lakes around here were killed by Johns Lake was absolutely murdered by development. All of the banks of the best banks of the lake have been developed, and there's docks and there's no grass, there's no lily pads. Millionaires come in, they buy a house, they spread sand, and it just that's gone. That bite's gone. So that happens. Yeah, of course you can still go down there and catch fish on those banks, but it changes the ecosystem drastically. Those fish relocate. I don't care what anybody says. There's banks on Johns Lake that you used to be able to go and flip in 2, 3, 4 foot of water, and they would spawn in that crap that now have 60, 70 docks on them and 400-yard stretch. Man, nobody touches them. You're not catching fish. There's not even bluegill on these people's docks. I don't know what changes so drastic about it. There's grass, there's everything else. Water's clean, hard bottom, whatever. But the fishing's just not the same.
it's
Butler
not.
was Butler's weird. The grass is still out there. You still have an abundance of grass. You still have abundance of great shoreline cover. You just do not have the quality. Dude, you remember the days it took 30, 31, 32 pounds to get a slap on the ass. Hey, thanks for showing up. The Alabama rig, when that came out, that was detrimental to putting 30 pounds in the boat back then.
Yeah, but I will say this: all that pepper grass that's out there in Butler was hydrola then.
Back then, yes.
They they
But
they killed off all the they sprayed all the hydrola, and just like you're seeing happen to Lake Toho right now, the pepper
nothing but.
grass moved in and took the place of the hydrola, and that was it. Then it started to suck almost immediately.
There is truth to that. Nobody likes pepper grass. That is gross. Makes you turn the other way. But Butler and Johns and all the Clearwater Central Florida lakes, I don't think have the abundance of spray pressure that the big bodies of water and the big tournament lakes that Central Florida has. Winter Haven Chain, the Harris chain, Kissimmee chain. There's no big money tournaments going out of Johns or Butler. There's no money to be made fishing those lakes. There's just not. You're not going to make $2,500 on a bass fishing tournament on Johns Lake.
The problem out there on Johns Lake and the Butler chain is you got all those people with pleasure boats that
Right.
and those are the people that show up to the meetings when FWC has a meeting about the spraying coming up. Those are the people that show up.
They don't care about
Bass
fishing.
fishermen don't show up.
No, we're working. We're blue collar. We got jobs. We've got shit to do. We're not showing up crying about how there's grass around our dock and that our 3-year-old can't put his feet on bare sand.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Question. Next question though. Next one. No more. I don't want any more
I was going to
spraying.
say, let's move on from the spraying thing.
Nicholas Fry's got a Supra to build, and we got to get back to him. I got twin turbo
and a 2JZ.
He's on the right. He's on the right course.
On the right path.
He's trying to build this thing that to the point where he has to throw laundry out in order to slow this thing down.
Put a nasty 4BT in that thing and be done with it.
Be done with it.
Oh man, well, dude, like over the last 30 minutes, you covered several of the other questions, talking about how life is now for Bass All Year and will Bass All Year return. So we covered that kind of stuff. Got two more. One being, what's your favorite lake and why?
Toho.
I'm
obviously a big hunter. We just talked about this with your better half the other day.
Yep.
Love watching the world wake up. Big hunter. I'm huge, and I try to get all my buddies. I hunt with a lot of people throughout the year, and I'm not talking duck hunting. I'm talking deer hunting too, out of state, South Carolina, Kentucky. And naturally, as a hunter, you get disappointed when you don't come home with the game that you're in search of or hunting for. But if you can enjoy fishing and enjoy hunting for what it's worth, of just being there, like, dude, I put probably 1,300 hours worth of overtime a year working, and that's outside of your 80 straight that I'm guaranteed. And like when you can just climb into a tree and just sit there and shut up and not think about not like you feel lighter as a human being. That's the magic about hunting. It's the magic about duck hunting. It's the magic about deer hunting. And everybody has the mornings where like they throw their decoys and it's set up weird and you think your hunt's ruined, or you get up in a deer stand and all of a sudden the wind's blowing in your face. I'm sorry, wind isn't blowing in your face, it's blowing at your back, and you're like, God, the wind's going down the corn, my hunt's ruined. Like I don't honest to God, I swear, I don't hunt that way anymore. I work too hard throughout the year to let the variables that are uncontrollable ruin whatever my morning is. I love watching the world wake up. Double down from evening hunts or evening fishing, whatever. Watching the world wake up compared to watching the world go to sleep is two completely different things. And just being out, being able to hunt, being able to fish, and like watching the sun rise and the excitement of like, I wonder what today holds. Because I don't get that at work. And I've watched it's a joke at work that you get the Winter Garden sunrise because on a if we work all night and I watch a sunrise at work, I go home on all day rest. The company pays me to go home and sleep for 9 hours before they're legally allowed to call me back into work. And that's the joke. It's like, man, Winter Garden sunrise, it's the finest in the state. You won't get anything like it because you're going home and you don't have to work in the heat. You get to go home and lay in your bed and sleep the heat away. Lake Toho is my favorite lake because I've had the best mornings bass fishing ever on that body of water. The sunrise and the run, it's my favorite run that I've had on. I've fished many Central Florida lakes, but coming out of Big Toho and just on tournament mornings and making that run through that little cut and it opens up.
Yeah.
And you got the creek and you can go left or right. You're like, man, like, and half the field goes left and you're the only one zipping through and you go under the power lines and you're still running and you look back and you settle down your first spot and there ain't another boat even coming near you and you're like, man, I wonder if I made it. Like that kind of like, what if, dude, I love that. It's the same way hunting. You get the same rush hunting. Like, did I pick the right ladder stand? Did I climb in the right stand today? Duck hunting. Did I set up in the right spot? Should I have been on the east side of the lake? Am I on the west side of the lake? Is the wind blowing right? Like that all changes within like 20 minutes. Your first 20 minutes. And I say that duck hunting to you. I can tell you how a fishing day is going to come and a hunting day for me at least within your first 20 minutes on a tournament day. First spot sucked. Erase that. Let's keep going. You can't do that hunting. Duck hunting is like you throw your decoys out, you blind up, and you're sitting there shivering. First light comes out, and the whole east side of the lake is shooting, and you haven't even seen a feather fly by. You're like, damn, birds ain't coming this way. So you wait it out, maybe you can shoot a couple, whatever. Deer hunting the same way. You might be sitting there freezing, but to take away that maybe you made a wrong move that morning, you get to hear everything wake up. You get to see the little squirrels come down and eat the corn. You get to see the little tiny bucks come out and they fight. You get to see some does. You get to see some coots come out. Like watching a coot come out of the reeds and like stretch its little wings. The dude, it's like the little stuff. So Lake Toho, you get the birds, you get freaking all the bugs making noises, you get the frogs, and then like the fishing is extra. I bring that up when we're on our hunting leases the same way. Like if anybody kills something tonight, like that's extra. We all get to be here. We're not working. We're not getting called out of our beds in the middle of the night to go work broke poles, work outages. Like being able to be somewhere and be able to hunt with buddies should be like that's good enough for me. And I, honestly, God, that's how I treat it. Like when we go to Kentucky, that's 2 weeks that I just shut everything going on back home off. And thankfully, I'm blessed with a pretty good life. I don't worry about you know bills piling up or who's healthy and who's not. I've been put in a good. I've stayed healthy this year and all that, and financially fit. But for people that don't have that, I think hunting, fishing is a good outlet of like just shut the world off and like enjoy the sunrise, enjoy all that going on. And Lake Toho has the abundance of all that. And no matter where you go on Toho, it's that way.
Yep.
You don't even have to make that morning run that I talk about. You could just throw the trolling motor down and just you're gonna watch some coots wake up. You're gonna watch a heron come up and fly. You're gonna watch a couple of gators pop up and do the little morning swim. Cool stuff happens in the morning, and then a big 6+ blows up on your spook, and it's like this is awesome. I love being out here. And I feel that like there's days where like I'll work all Friday night till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, do I just stay up and just get the G and head to the ramp and just sleep for an hour and a half at the ramp? And then there's days,
That's why I did that for a long time when I was
yeah,
on night shift. But
dude. 'Cause there's days I don't do that, and I'll wake up at 9 o'clock in the morning, like, damn, man, like what do I do now? And then you sit around the house all day, and you're like, I should just went to the, I should just put the boat in the water, fished until 12, come back home, take a nap. Like dude, I fight that stuff all the time. But the Kissimmee chain as a whole, where do we put in a perfect example like of like not catching any fish during your sunrise and just enjoying? It was on Hatch, and we fished that bluegill, that mayfly spawn, and all the bluegills were coming up.
oh yeah,
And every cast was like, "This is it." I'm like, man, I can't believe we're not getting on it. But like seeing that, like, dude, like there's so many people who've probably never seen a mayfly hatch, and just watching the world and what and a local ecosystem does on a mayfly hatch or a shad spawn or whatever. Watching bass chase shad is just cool. Watching
I've,
them shad on Lake Chickamauga was cool that they related to literal garbage,
yep.
like Gatorade bottles, Mountain Dew bottles, and floating beer coolers. That's what the shad related to. They were spawning on that stuff like that. If you didn't get out of bed and see that, you would have never saw that.
No.
So if I, and I Florida, Lake Tahoe, I think the Kissimmee chain is the standard when it comes to bass fishing and just being to see everything. When you had me, I was duck hunting when you were, I guess you were guiding longer. You probably had a 2 years or so guiding, and you had found them birds. And I went back there in Goblet's Cove, dude. I literally was watching deer behind me. I had deer behind me. I had ringers flying in front of me, and I had coots. Like, that's awesome. That's the old Florida stuff. So Kissimmee, the Kissimmee chain is the best way I can explain old Florida and just cancel out the world closest to me. Because you don't get that on Butler, you don't get it on Johns.
Hell no, there's too much development out there.
You don't get it on the Harris chain. You've got some 16-year-old out of some local high school tournament out of freaking Rhode Island every weekend. Like, there's always a high school tournament every time I go up there. There's some high school national championship that I've never heard of. So Toho is the deal for me.
Toho is the deal for me too. A couple questions that I want to drop back and address real quick. Brian Ross asked, moon phase, how it affects the spawn and what side of the moon phase do you prefer? I will tell you, in my experience, Brian, both the full moon and new moon bring spawners up.
For sure.
And generally speaking, 3 days before, the day of, and 3 days after a new or full moon, you will have your best spawn. But with that being said, when it comes to the spawn during the peak spawn months, February, March, and into April around here, my experience, a lot of these big fish around here, they are very much Florida strain bass. And I don't think they give a crap about the moon. I really don't. I think they care more about water temperature and water temperature stability. Once that water temperature hits 70 degrees coming up from the wintertime, I mean, you get waves of spawners, right? In Florida, we're blessed with good weather during the winter and, pretty much all spring. I've seen it the last couple of years where it almost got too hot too rapidly and it like killed the spawn. But for the most part, I think it has to do with water temperature stability. And I think once you see water temperature 69, 70, and 70 degrees and above, they're up there spawning somewhere. If you're not finding them, it's because you're not looking in the right spot. They're spawning somewhere. So
Oak Ridge, we're in Florida, by the way.
Yeah, Central Florida. Alan Lower said, what about Orange? I have never been to Orange. It is one of the lakes that I need to go to. It's got a lot of hydrilla in it, and I like flipping hydrilla.
One of the lakes that I think Florida will kill. FWP will kill.
Eventually, yeah, they'll get to it with
celebrity queen of the night. If you could fish any lake in the U.S., all expenses paid. Where are you fishing? St. Lawrence River. Day in and day out.
You could fish any lake in the U.S., all expenses paid. Where are you fishing? All those lakes up there are cool, but I don't know. None of them impress me the way the Tennessee River does. So it's going to be an all expenses paid trip to fish.
That's why I said something different.
Nickajack, Guntersville, Pickwick, Kentucky, and Barkley Lakes.
I couldn't be the phenom that said the Tennessee River. I think the Tennessee River is, if not just it's the northeast version of Champlain, Erie, St. Lawrence River, but everything into one, including floating Mountain Dew bottles and beer fruit.
Yes.
After a big, large rain.
Including floating Mountain Dew bottles.
But you don't have the crystal clear Champlain and Erie water. But I don't get up to the northeast at all. That's why I would choose that. But the Tennessee River, like, if somebody offered me $1 million and said go buy a house, it would be on the Tennessee River somewhere.
Somebody gives me $1 million right now to go buy a house anywhere in the country. It is going to be on the side of probably Chickamauga.
Yeah.
Probably Chickamauga. Probably down there by the nuclear plant.
That trip was way too much fun. Way too much fun. I can't wait for the day I make a living on the Big Bass Tour. Chasing a dream. Making a lap with that American flag.
Yep.
Ka-chow, baby. Yeah, no, that was a good trip.
Chickamauga is the deal.
What a spot.
One more question, then I'm cutting this off. We're at 79 minutes into this live. It's freaking ridiculous. And I'm ready to go in the house and eat some dinner. Plus, I still got to get ready for guide trips this weekend. I got a morning trip and an evening trip tomorrow. And I've got a morning trip and an evening trip on Sunday. So I have to get ready for a long weekend of guide trips. But Connor, with all of, I'll call it BS, because that's what I think it is BS. But the drama, all the drama surrounding Bassmaster's decision to allow them to use forward-facing sonar in some of the events and not some of the events, and the decision being made via coin toss. Any opinions on that, or do you take the stance that I take, and you could actually care less because
I don't. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. I don't care at all. The Mississippi River was the funnest event to watch last year.
Yep, 100%.
By far, bar none. I don't care what I don't care what anybody. I don't care if you're the Bassmaster Elite and YouTube little Guggen hero and you know every stat about everybody. Could care less. Don't care. That's awesome for you. Good job. Get a full-time job. Get in the blue collar world. But with that, I don't remember the days when side imaging came around or the last piece of game-changing equipment to the bass fishing industry. I remember when poles came around. I remember when big like spot lock trolling motors came around. I remember when 36-volt trolling motors became the deal and the standard. The Motor Guide Pro Tour was the standard, believe it or not, for a trolling motor back in the day. Minn Kota completely changed the game, but I also don't remember anything being that game changing. And maybe you can correct me. You're not that much older than me, but when go back to the days of the legacy units and HDS, like when side imaging, like when those units were the pro deal to have, like you weren't competing unless you had solid side imaging units.
Yeah, Humminbird came out with side imaging, the first side imaging graph, and I want to say, man, I want to say 2009,
It was not that
2010.
long ago.
No, it really wasn't. Technology in bass fishing is one of those things that, like, once we opened that door, man, we opened
It
it
was
all the
wide
way.
open. So
Yeah,
like it kills me that like people think that like dude, back in the 70s and 80s, they were getting a map of the bottom of the lake on a freaking piece of paper.
yeah, yeah.
And like the same technology we fight wars with, they fought wars with back in Vietnam. And the same technology we bass fish with, we didn't bass fish with 20 years ago.
No,
And people
no.
are like, cancel it, can't. You're out of your freaking mind if you think for 1 second that you're going to stop any of it. There will be a you're in the flasher stage of forward facing sonar as you
Yeah.
speak right now. In 10 years, somebody watching this has a 3-year-old and their 13 or 14-year-old is going to be looking at a screen and they're going to be watching their minnow actively dance in the water column via a transducer that sends an image and projects it back to you with a freaking brush pile and your minnow dancing. And you're going to be able to see that brush pile and you're going to be able to see old minnow and old girl come out and eat. And that's how they're going to catch bass in a decade. Guaranteed. Mark it down right now. And they'll try to ban it. They'll try to say it's the next NASCAR. They'll try to say that Gerald Swindle is the Dale Earnhardt of freaking bass fishing. I've read it all. Don't care,
Oh
whatever.
God.
It is. You've got. They're saying that it's like anything else. When Babe Ruth was playing baseball, he wasn't able to compete with today's pitchers. He wasn't able to compete with pitchers 20 years ago. He wasn't able to compete with pitchers 40 years ago. Rick Clunn, I believe, is the greatest bass fisherman to ever touch the face of the earth. He has competed through every decade, literally every decade of competitive bass fishing, and he will go over as the most underrated fisherman ever. We did not give that human being enough credit. The dude he bass fished when he used to have to get a receipt of the bottom structure of the lake, and he competed professionally at a level where they were staring at a bait projecting a live view on a screen eating a lure. He's seen it all. Did Rick Glenn ever?
Yeah.
Did he ever complain? Did he ever take a season off? Did he ever get on Facebook and complain about this is BS and these young guns take away side imaging and these young guns wouldn't have a chance? No, he went fishing.
Yeah, that's my opinion about Kevin Van Dam. I don't think you'll ever see anybody ever do what KVD has done.
That was
Ever.
the
I don't think it'll. Nobody will ever amass. it'll never happen.
No,
It's absurd what that guy has done in bass fishing.
Trey
So I think
McKinney,
he's the goat.
they
But
won't do it.
again, you never heard that guy complaining about anything.
And they
Those
didn't
guys
have
go to
the
work.
outlet to complain. Maybe they were back at the boat ramp and at their house, but they didn't have Facebook and Instagram and TikTok to just sit there and like just complain about every little freaking thing. They didn't have the
Oh,
outlet to
dude.
do it, so they didn't
So
do it.
one of my favorite things to do when I scroll like the comment section of Bassmaster when they post something, I start seeing all these old boomers getting on there just griping
That's
away
what the
about everything.
generation is.
Dude,
It's
I'll click
that
on their I
generation.
click on their profile and like start scrolling through their profile and I'm like, dude, some of these guys haven't fished in years.
They haven't been
Years. And they
relevant in
look
the
like they
bass
can't
fishing
even
community
move.
since
And
the
I'm sitting there
'85.
thinking to myself, I'm like, bro, you're running your mouth enough, like almost like you believe you could get out there and outfish these guys
That would be like me.
without live scope. And I'm like, dude, these guys would skin you up and down the lake
That'd be
with or
like me in
without it.
2038 standing like this with a freaking Captain of the Year plaque in 2018 and being like, these young guns don't know how hard they
Yes.
have it. And it's like, you weren't good back then. You're not living the dream that 20-year-old. Yeah, did he get dealt a hand you didn't get? Yeah. Daddy's a multimillionaire and mom's a multimillionaire. Shut up. Things happen. Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of these boys were handed to them, and there's a lot of boys on the opens and the EQs that are literally eating ramen noodles trying to make a dream come true. And they're not on Facebook complaining about Ford faces on. Throw it on the front of your boat and get competitive. If not, shut up. I don't have it. I don't have a trolling motor that works half the time. I just fish. So like, who cares? I will out hunt 90% of the community in Central Florida this year, guaranteed, and I'll die on the hill out of my 14-foot John boat. Because you go to the basics of what you're doing. Is forward facing sonar totally different? Yes. But there's no technology that makes you in front of a duck where it's flying. But the concept of, oh, we're gonna flip a coin and we're gonna say, I think it's all silly. Who cares what Bass Live is? Don't get me started on the MLF train. Don't care. It's a worthless trail to me. But Bass, being it's the biggest in the world, it's the highest stage. If a 19-year-old makes it and he's freaking holding up blue trophies with $100,000, awesome. That's awesome. And if he's using today's technology to get that done, awesome. I don't like it. I thought the Mississippi River event was the best of the year for obvious reasons. But with that, I can't stand going on face. Same thing you just said about scrolling through Bass's posts and looking at comments. It's always some 58-year-old dude at 294 pounds with a Mountain Dew and Cheez-Its in his hands complaining about, oh, it's not the same. And he's got a freaking Evan Rude from 2008 and he's doing what he can to fish. It's like, dude, just fish. Look at what we had at the Big Bass Tour. We got slapped by a dude in a 94 Ranger
Yep.
with old poles, with old legacy units that
Bro,
he probably didn't turn off.
the high school age kid in the freaking
in
G3
in a G3. And what
in
did
the
I say going up there?
G3
Somebody in
that
the aluminum
was
boat's going to win it.
bro was running from Harrison Bay all the way back to Dayton in a
Getting it
G3
done. And
to weigh
in
fish in
jeans.
every hour.
He was in a white t-shirt and jeans, probably with a lip of Copenhagen that his 21-year-old buddy bought him on the way to the ramp.
Yes,
He
Oak Ridge
got it.
taxidermist. Every single one of these comments that comes through, I read it. I read it. All of them.
I hope y'all kill it on the lake in the morning. Direct to the lake to fish. Mine out until next time. Sprayed to death.
Yes, everything.
Sprayed to death might be true. We can come together in a better way. But regardless, yes, it's right back to the innocence factor. I like just fishing. Forward facing sonar is cool. Side imaging is cool. I'm not a great electronics guy. I thrive around just going on the bank. And if I have a good day catching them on the bank, cool. If they're not up there on the bank, I didn't have a good day fishing.
Today
But
was opening day of deer season at MD. Had to have been archery. Opening day of archery.
I think archery, I think it either opened today or tomorrow in Kentucky, too.
Son shot a doe and a 7 point all same day.
That's a good sit. That's a good sit. Congrats to him. I bet you were proud Mom or dad?
Dude, I don't know how I feel about hunting this early in the year, man. I mean, you out there sitting and waiting for a deer to walk in. It's got to be what 80 degrees out there, 85
Gotta be
degrees.
hot. Gotta be
Sitting there
hot.
sweating to death.
It's not for me. Even when we go to South Carolina, I go on my birthday weekend every year. Our dove hunt typically we don't go till 5:30 at night, 6 o'clock at night. It's too hot.
Alan, I'm a full-time fishing guide. I buy name brand stuff. I don't have time to make my own baits. I do not
I've
have
done
time to sit around and make rods. I don't have time to sit around and make baits. I'm either fishing, trying to win a tournament, put people on fish, or I don't even want to see the boat. One or the other.
it. Yeah. I don't want to stare at a lake today. I want to sit on my recliner with little man and my better half.
Go ride the bike, go ride the truck around. I want to go do something, anything other than be in the boat looking at
Making
the lake.
baits is fun. I went through that phase. It is cool. It's something I think everybody should get into and kind of explore your creative mind. But it's you're not saving any money. I can show you that. You won't save a dime. First bow kill. I'm sure he's excited. I haven't killed. I'm a rifle hunter. I shoot 308 suppressed, but I haven't sat for bow kill. I want a couple more. Personal goal is to get like a 150 plus on a rifle in Kentucky. Obviously, we don't grow them like that in South Carolina or Florida, but I go to Kentucky every year for 2 weeks. Till I get a booner on a rifle, then I'll get into the archery game.
My goal is to shoot a greenhead mallard with a bow this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we end it. Captain Erik Tilson. He'll catch you poaching at the local R.D. King boat ramp for the local greenheads.
You'll catch me in a reed patch out there.
We got him, boys. I want you to mount him exactly. Speaking of which, where do you do? You're out of Maryland. Unfortunate. I can never have you do. Before we all go, this was a dead bird box I had done this year. That is obviously a mallard on the left, shot on Johns Lake. Not one of my proudest birds. I'm not a fan of shooting hen wood ducks, but I shot her man and she circled back and would not leave him. I shot her out of the sky, and then that is a whistling duck on the right, and then a piece of floating wood that I found in the Claremont chain, and then just found some rocks too. But Oak Ridge tag. That's pretty cool. We got taxidermists on here too. Just before we leave, I'll sage on her up. But we got a lot of work around the old mansion just to at least give a taxidermist a little look. Greenhead, mallard, some bucks from Kentucky, the old goose, and then a whistler flying, and another buck. But I'll check out your page, man. I don't follow you, but I'll definitely shoot you a request or whatever. And we'll give you a follow. Huge. I'm tatted up. My whole back's tatted up. I got a sleeve. I'm huge on artwork. I don't own any physical artwork. I think that's probably one of the most artistic things you can have as an American. But that's the only paint work I have. But big artwork guy. Somebody that can turn something and make it into what taxidermy is. I've got huge respect for it. 750 for a mount, and I have them caped when I shoot them. That's $100 in Kentucky. I don't cape them myself, so I have a guy that I'll gut the deer. I drive about 45 to an hour to get to my processor, so I'll field dress it. I'll gut it at the truck. The farmer that I have is pretty cool. He don't mind me just gutting it there, and then driving an hour. 550, 3 to 6 months. Yeah, he's 750 here in Florida. That's about the rate you'll have 3 to 6 months. You can pay less and wait a year, but I think it's absolutely asinine to wait a year to get a deer mount. Maybe you have a different opinion on that. The birds are 400 any position, and then like that dead bird box that was a $45 piece that I painted, and then $400 a bird.
Sick, dude. Well, Connor, either I'm gonna hop off of here and let you guys keep talking about the taxidermy stuff, which is really interesting. It is.
It's the coolest stuff ever, dude.
Yeah,
Somebody that
no,
can turn an animal into wall art.
I'm a big bass guy myself,
I'm
but
a huge art guy.
we're going to close this live out. That's it. We've been on here for a
Over
very
half
long time, much longer than I expected to. Yep. See you later, Justin.
Gonna get us a bad gag.
Hope you
Hopefully,
guys limit out on big gags.
that's the goal.
Yep. I've got to get up early in the morning. Got a full day of guide trips tomorrow. Connor, I don't know what you got going on, but I hope you get on the water somewhere, fish this weekend. And for everybody that tuned in or is still watching, they're dropping like flies as we speak. Appreciate you guys tuning in to Friday Night Live in the
For the next
garage
time,
with special guest Connor Mack of Bass All Year. It was real.
as always.
Guys, same place, same time next Friday night. I got Alex Tarasenko of Cinco Sticks.
That's a good one.
Next Friday night, yeah. We're going to interview Alex Tarasenko. I'm going to have 10 questions written up for Alex.
He'll probably build 10 rods in an hour and a half. Where
Well,
I just threw back 8 Modelos, but
we're gonna put Alex through the 10 question grinder next Friday night, right here, same time, 8 o'clock. We'll see you guys then. Connor, see you.
see you,
Everybody
dude.
tuned in to watch.
Okay, y'all.
See you guys.
Y'all be good later.